One of the easiest ways to find yourself at the bottom of your Dynasty League standings is if you have a terrible startup draft. So earlier this week, we went through the best picks in every round of Dynasty startup draft. So today, we're going to tell you which players to avoid and give you our least favorite picks in every round of Dynasty startup drafts. So before we dive into it, fellas, it's important context to tell the people we are going off of one quarterback Dynasty startup ADP here. We're not doing super flex. Got a few complaints in the last video of what Drake Maye's a second rounder after saying he was in the fourth. One quarterback ADP. All right. And Brock Bowers, oh my, is the 103 right now in Dynasty startups. And I am terrified despite how good he is. Across the board, he is our least favorite player. We're going to go round by round and give you each of our least favorite players in every round. There's going to be some overlap. If you're listening to the audio feed, you're going to hear similar players. If you're over on YouTube, you get to watch the beautiful visuals as well. But Brock Bowers, the 103, Cameron, you wasted no time in our group chat, like all caps, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Brock Bowers, 103, least favorite pick.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I think he's a dynasty tight end one. Like, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be up there in those rankings, but at the 103, you're telling me that the only course or the only trajectory for his career can be Travis Kelce. There could be no variance to the downside for that. Otherwise, this is a bad pick because you're taking ahead of Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, right? You're taking them ahead of guys who are going to be elite talents. And so can Brock Bowers put up those kind of stats? I'm not going to cap him after his rookie season.
No.
But all I'm saying is if he does become Travis Kelce, then this was just the right pick. It's not like you're getting a value, right? There is no value on this pick. And after one season, it just scares me a little bit to take a tight end this high. So yeah, just because we're putting these expectations on him, I like Bowers. I like him at the end of the first. I don't think that'd be a bad pick, but at the 103 just scares me a little too much.
You're allowed to be hot and bothered by Brock Bowers. Like, let me give you permission to be hot and bothered by Brock Bowers, but to push him up to the 103, I get there's longevity here as a pass catcher. I really do. Like, there's not the same shelf life as running backs. I really do get that, but you're right. By drafting him here, the only outcome is he has to be Travis Kelce for how old is Brock Bowers? 23 years old?
22.
22. For the next 10 years, consecutively, he needs to be Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot. And I get not a lot of tight end score points, but oh man, you're asking a lot of Brock Bowers at the 103. What's it for you, Ty? What else do you want to pile on?
I mean, you're banking on this Vegas offense taking a step forward. And yes, they upgraded a QB massively, going from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell to Geno Smith. Like, no matter how bad you think Geno Smith is, he is miles better than what they had before. But the point is, are they going to score more? And Brock Bowers is coming off a season where he got a ton of volume, but he only scored 5 times. So you're going to take you're taking in the risk that he will jump forward, that he will take another step forward. On top of what Cam said, volume stays the same as what we just saw it to be, and he finds the end zone. That I feel like maybe we're a couple of years early. And I get that, like, sometimes you do need to try to get ahead of the curve, but at the same time, like Cam said, we're passing up Bijan, we're passing up Jahmyr Gibbs, guys that have been here, done this for multiple years already, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future.
And I know, look, we got all excited about Sam Laporta after his rookie season, and we pushed him up the boards as well. And look what happened in year 2. Things came crashing down, and now I'm not saying Brock Bowers is going to come crashing down in year 2. I think Brock Bowers could easily repeat his rookie season, but you are banking on Brock Bowers being the advantage of all advantages every single year by taking him this high in your rookie drafts. I get it. He was only one of 4 tight ends to score more than 200 PPR fantasy points last year. I get it, but he only scored 13 more points than George Kittle. And sure, is there room to go up? Potentially, absolutely, but man, to push all the way to the 103, I get if you wanted to push him into round 1, early round 2. I really get that, but to to push him up to 103 is just too rich. So I don't. Maybe you stopped listening at this point because you're just thinking we're just a bunch of babbling idiots that don't understand that Brock Bowers is literally him, right? But if you are around still and you're like, nah, maybe they bring up a good point, you should hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is out. If you're a fantasy football fanatic, I promise you're going to love our channel. We are bringing you content all year long. Dynasty, best ball, redraft content. We're going to start getting to redraft content very, very soon here. So if you love fantasy football, this is the place you want to be. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. Let's hit the second round, fellas. Cameron, you and I were chatting briefly before we turned on the cameras. Travis Hunter as our least favorite pick in the second round is extremely painful for how much you and I like him. We said, and I'm not going to hide behind it. We said in your rookie drafts, Travis Hunter should be the 102.
Yep.
In your startup draft, though, the 212. Oh, that's just a little rich for my blood when I can't screw up this pick in the second round. In my rookie draft, I can count on continuously rebuilding. I can count on Travis Hunter being a contributing piece. But when I'm taking Travis Hunter at the 212 in the second round of a startup draft, I need him to be an absolute stud. I don't know if he's going to give me that because we just don't know what the percentages are of how often he plays on each side of the ball.
Yeah, the issue is to the next closest wide receiver 2 in the startup draft is T. Higgins, who doesn't go till the 4th round. That's when we see Rome go. That's when we see guys like Devonta Smith. That's when we see Jalen Waddles in the 6th. You're asking a lot for a rookie wide receiver 2 to come in and perform here. It's just super hard to do. I understand. We love Liam Cohen. I think Trevor Lawrence bounces back a little bit. Am I saying he's going to be what we thought he was coming in as a rookie? No, but I think he bounces back a little. But Brian Thomas, I think, is going to be the one, especially if Travis Hunter's not playing 100% of snaps on offense.
Yep.
And so it just feels a little rich to draft a wide receiver 2 this high.
And is Travis Hunter better than Rome, than Devonta Smith, than the other guys who listed? I do believe he is.
Yeah.
But 212 is just too. If you told me 312, sure, I can get behind it. I get it why we would be excited about that, but 212 with the guy who might be playing both sides of the ball. We don't know the percentages. It's just a little rich for my blood. But Ty, you actually chose to go a different route. You went Ladd McConkey after his rookie season. Talk about getting people upset. You went back to back here. First it's Brock Bowers. Now it's Ladd McConkey. You just hate sophomore year players.
He hates Georgia.
Oh, geez, that's a can of worms that I'm not going to open. But I mean,
whole state.
Yikes! And I've got family that lives in Georgia, and I'm going to exclude them from this one. What it comes down to for Ladd McConkey is, yes, the rookie year was fantastic, but this is going to be a bit of a different Chargers offense than what we saw last year. Not only did you add Trey Harris in the draft, but now your running back room consists of Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris compared to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Okay. And for reference, J.K. Dobbins is still an unsigned free agent right now. So could you make the argument that the Chargers were a little pass dependent last year, like they needed to throw the ball? Sure. I would accept that. And that's where I personally lean. The other part of this, too, is that when you take a look at Ladd McConkey's stats from last year, he had 2 games with nearly 30 fantasy points because he scored 2 times in those games. All the other games, he just averaged 13 fantasy points a game. So for Ladd McConkey, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's touchdown dependent, but I think there is a little bit of a recency bias when it comes to Ladd McConkey that he can continue what he was doing last year. And I don't want to say that like he's going to fall off the face of the earth or anything. Like the guy is still going to get his in this Chargers offense because he is the most talented receiver on this team. But I don't know if it's exactly going to be at the highs that we saw it last year with a pretty revamped offense.
So I don't know if I can call Ladd McConkey like a quote unquote a bad pick in the second round. And I don't know if you would even debate that either. Right. But to me, what it sounds like you're saying is that you're drafting McConkey pretty darn close to his ceiling with not much room to go up. Is that kind of what you're saying? Because I can get behind that point. If you're saying that, because I think, look, Matt Hartman put out a great tweet if you go back and look at how the Chiefs played Ladd McConkey, I believe it was like week 4 they faced off, how much attention they gave him 4 weeks into his rookie season. And that should tell you something about what the league thinks of Ladd McConkey and how good and crafty the guy is. So I think he can capitalize on his end of the season, but your argument is more so, oh man, we might be pushing him to his ceiling here by drafting him at the 208.
That's the best way to put it. And it's not that I don't think it's a bad pick necessarily. It's just when you look at all the other players that you can take in the second round, Ladd McConkey and probably Travis Hunter, I would agree with you guys and your arguments for Travis Hunter are probably my 2 least favorite picks of the round.
Sure. I mean, you look at, again, single quarterback guys going in the second round, Lamar Jackson, Trey McBride, Nico Collins, Ashton Genty, Saquon Barkley, Drake London, Marvin Harrison. You got McConkey there, Joe Burrow afterwards, and then Devon Achane and Amari Hampton in between. So, yeah, I mean, lots of great players. I don't know if there's truly a quote-unquote wrong pick in the second round, but again, 2 of our least favorite picks when it comes to the second round. We'll keep it chugging along here to round 3. Cameron, you and I are in lockstep for the 3rd pick in a row. Sammy Ball came in the 3rd round. Yeah, still too rich for me here and too rich for you too.
Yeah, it's just after what we saw last year, we saw that there is a floor to Sam Laporta. And we saw that the issue is I don't want to call him touchdown dependent, but at the same time, he's shown that he needs, a lot of touchdowns to really put up great stats. His high for his career so far is 850 yards. Last year he only had 83 targets, 60 receptions. Ben Johnson's gone. He finished, what was he in? I'm pulling up his points per game. He finished
10 and 9 fantasy points per game last year.
10.9. Yeah.
Fantasy points per game.
Yeah, he's a tight end 9 in points per game. Behind, Travis Kelce felt like a huge disappointment. He finished 1.2 points behind Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews was droppable at one point during the year. He finished behind Mark Andrews in points per game last year.
Yeah.
And we're deciding we're going to take him in the 3rd round here. It just feels like, I understand he showed, great rookie season. We understand the upside. But this team is filled with playmakers, and he is just going to be fighting tooth and nail to be the guy. And I don't think he's George Kittle. Right, that's what he needs to be in this sort of offense to succeed. I don't think he's George Kittle, so I just think the 308. I understand the youth. I like Sam Laporta. I just think this is a little too rich when there's tight ends who I think are going to be close enough to him that you can get in later rounds that you just don't need to spend up for.
And the guy who could potentially make it work like a George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel is now with Chicago, who I have said I'm willing to see if this plays out like a San Francisco 49ers offense. So I'm with you. There's room for a bounce back here with Sam Laporta, no question. There is no world in which I'm taking him in the 3rd round of a startup draft. That is, I'm going to be saying too rich for my blood very frequently on this show, but especially with Sam Laporta, I do not see a world where I can justify taking him in the 3rd round with some of the other names available. But Ty, so again, you choose to pivot a different direction here. And I think this is the other bad pick in round 3. And Cameron, maybe you don't agree as a stand of this player, but it's getting tough to defend at this point based on the rumor mill this offseason, Ty.
1000%. I mean, in my early offseason best ball drafts, there's a reason why Braylon Allen is my top drafted running back at this point, because everything that they are saying out of New York is we've got a lot of good backs and we're going to use them all. And you may sit there and go, well, Breece Hall's the best one of them all. They like Braylon Allen and somehow they like Isaiah Davis. Don't know where that came from, but they like Isaiah Davis. Okay. Breece Hall in a committee, his one saving grace is going to be a receiving floor. And at that point, it gets into a format debate. Are you in half PPR? Are you in standard? Because receiving up with the receiving workload doesn't really make that much of a difference. And you just look at guys going behind him and you're like, do I really want to take Breece Hall ahead of those guys? But the other part of this too is he's in a contract year. This Jets team is not committed to him in any kind of way. And at that point, you're banking on a gift from the heavens saying that Breece Hall lands in a spot where he can be another workhorse type back. And sure, maybe it's in a better offense, or again, it could be a better offense, but he's just splitting work with somebody else. I just look at the running backs that go literally like 2 picks after him, and I go, I would rather take those guys ahead of Breece Hall, meaning Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Travion Henderson, where I get certainty with those guys versus Breece Hall. I've got question marks. Now, is there a path for Breece Hall to still succeed with the Jets? Yeah, totally. Like, Breece Hall is one of the most talented running backs in the league. I'm just going to hedge my bets and take maybe some youth with Bucky Irving and Travion, or I'm going to take just the absolute stud that we know is Jonathan Taylor, the absolute workhorse, maybe in the same level of offense.
Yeah, it's usually not a good sign when the media asks you a question about Breece Hall specifically as the head coach, and then you spend just as much time, if not more time, talking about the running back 3 on your team. Like, I'm sorry that Hayden Winks pointed that out on the Underdog Football Show. That's normally not a good sign, right? So, Cameron, maybe I'll let you give a slight rebuttal here as someone who has tried to champion Breece Hall still throughout the offseason. Do you have any line of defense here, or is you feel the nerves at this point with Breece Hall?
So I understand, like, this year definitely could be a down year. You add in Justin Fields, receiving work's probably going to be down. Braylon Allen, you have limited touchdown upside to begin with. That could be another issue. I still think Breece Hall is going to get a majority of the work. I still think if they're running a 2 running back system, he's the main back. I understand they're going to use Braylon Allen a lot more, but I also think that there is hope moving forward. Right, Breece Hall, like you said, it's going to be a contract year. Breece Hall is going to be freshly 24 next May, right? Going into his new contract.
He's still very young.
So yeah, he's still 20. He just turned 23. I mean, the dude's ridiculously young. So getting that second contract, I think there are going to be a lot of suitors, especially if he comes out and quiets all kind of the concerns from last year. You know, you looked at him, he didn't look quite right. He comes out this next year. I do think there's going to be a lot of teams maybe not looking to pay him highly, right? I think the running back market has shown even Saquon Barkley can't get a contract that we think he deserves, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams looking to use him well. You know, I mean, it was disappointing last year. He still averaged 15 fantasy points per game. So on, 4.2 yards per attempt, if that efficiency comes back up, similar to what we saw in 2023, especially if it comes back up to what we saw in 2022, I think even a decreased workload, we can see really good from Breece. I do want to add one thing on Sam Laporta, just real quick. I just want to name some of the guys who had more receptions than Sam Laporta last year.
Oh gosh,
because it's a disgusting list.
Oh boy.
Right, you had the Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, Jonnu Smith, George Kittle. All those are fine, but then we go Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, and David Njoku did in 11 games. So I'm just showing you how kind of what the floor is for Sam Laporta and why I have him as my 308. Or why I have
Kate Otten had one less.
Yeah, one less for Kate Otten. Ferguson had one less.
The Pat Freiermuth is a wild one because that dude could not score fantasy points for the life of him last year. It felt like.
Yep.
And he had more receptions than Sam Laporta. That's stupid.
Yep.
Where did Freiermuth finish in points per game?
1 point less.
13. He was 13th in points per game still. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's how bad tight ends were. Real quick with Breece Hall, one more thing. He turns 24 at the end of this month. So
it's at the end of this month?
Yeah, at the end of this month.
Well, that's goofy.
His birthday.
He'll be 25 when he gets a new contract of some sort.
Okay. 25. They still got 3 more years. Plus.
Which could Breece be one of these guys, like a Jacobs, like a Derrick Henry, like a Joe Mixon we saw this offseason, where they find a new home, potentially a better home than the New York Jets, that run a more competent offense. Maybe the Jets do run that more this year. I digress. There's room for Breece Hall to bounce back, but I do agree. It's we're getting to scary hours here with Breece Hall. Round 4, a round where none of us agree. There's some interesting names on here. Ty, maybe I'll come back to you right away. We've talked a little bit about, we've talked quite a bit about James Cook this offseason, how he may be overpriced in dynasty formats, currently holding out for a new contract with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the number they're reporting is stupid high. He's not going to get that contract. I'll tell you that right now. That's not the contract he's getting, but Maybe keep it brief. People can go back and watch. I believe it's running backs. Dynasty managers have valued all wrong. We talk about James Cook and we can do a deep dive there. But why don't you scratch the surface here with James Cook? Why he's your least favorite pick in the 4th round of startups?
This is just a regression to the mean bet. 16 rushing touchdowns is not going to happen for James Cook. Just gonna come right out and say that. Okay. And you take a look at last year, his top performances 28.5, 28.3, 26.3, 27.6. Those are all games with multiple touchdowns. So I don't think it's a guarantee that we're going to get 4 games like that again. We may get a couple, but I just don't think it happens. And the ongoing contract dispute, like you said, not great for somebody that's going to be holding out for $20 million. Because
okay, I didn't want to say 20. That's what I thought the number was, and I didn't want to be off by, like 10 million or something. But no, 20 million is what I saw. And I'm like, there's no way he's getting that contract. No way.
And that's what he's holding out for, that man is not going to be on the Buffalo Bills. And you can't convince me otherwise that he finds a situation better than where he has it with Buffalo right now.
I don't disagree with anything there. I think the biggest thing is the regression. 16 rushing touchdowns is bound to come down for James Cook. I'll talk about the other running back before we talk about your least favorite pick, Cameron, because it's a fascinating one, and it took me through a good thought exercise. But I'll speak on more than that in a second. Quinshon Judkins in the 4th round. I'm perplexed on it, and I think when I looked through the list of players going in the 4th round and I landed on Judkins, and I immediately thought, I see it, but I don't. Like, this is the worst running back spot in the 4th round of running backs to go in the 4th round. This is the worst situation to be in, where you don't have quarterback. This is just a dysfunctional franchise to the max right now. How confident am I that Quinshon Judkins can pay off ADP sooner rather than later? Now, I know in the Dynasty, right? We're playing 3-5 years down the road. I 100% get that. They also drafted Dylan Sampson. Jerome Ford I could act like Jerome Ford is better than Quinshon Judkins. That's just stupid. But like, Jerome Ford's still around. He's a nice little player. All right. I'm just not certain that Quinshon Judkins, like a bunch of these other guys going in round 3 and 4, has the same upside and usage upside that these other guys do. Like, I'm just not as readily convinced that Quinshon Judkins is a 17 touch per game running back, like some people think he is. And I don't know if he's explosive enough in the receiving game as well to add the PPR upside. So there's enough uncertainty for me there where I would rather, I know there's contract uncertainty with James Cook, but darn it, I've seen it. Who's the other running back going in the 4th round?
Josh Jacobs,
Christian McCaffrey. Guys I've already seen it with.
Chase Brown even.
Chase Brownie. I don't know what I'm getting with Quinshon Judkins entirely. I would rather take Chase Brown than Judkins straight up. I think that's where I'm at. I don't know how you two want to weigh in on that, or I don't know if you feel perplexed in the same way that I am, but I think that like internal dissonance within me just drove me to a point of like, I just actually don't know if I could take this player in the 4th round compared to the other names I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's hard too. Like you said, I do think Dylan Sampson has to lower the ceiling a little bit. I understand
capital has to mean something for him. I mean,
right.
It's not like day 2 capital,
draft,
but
yes.
You took Judkins early 2nd and then Sampson early 4th.
Yeah. And it's just, especially when he's coming from a system where he was splitting a backfield, and now you're moving to a new system where you bring in 2 running backs in the same, same draft class. And this team, like you said, the quarterback position is going to be disgusting. So I understand they're going to have to run the ball a lot. But if teams can put 8-9 guys in the box every single down, it doesn't matter how much you run the ball, unless you're just unbelievably special. And I'm not convinced Judkins is quite there yet. So yeah, I agree. It's just, I understand liking Judkins, but taking him ahead of some of the running backs that are going around him is a little rich for me.
I get you want to bet on rookie youth, upside. I do. I honestly get it, but man, I would almost just rather take 2-3 years of Josh Jacobs and figure it out later. Take a year or 2 of Christian McCaffrey, figure it out later. 2 more years of Chase Brown, figure it out later. Tosh Brooks is a nice little player, but I think it's going to be Chase Brown still.
Hey, don't forget about Samaje Perine.
Zach Moss, my guy. Can't forget about it. But like, again, like I got 2 years of those guys still. I'll take those 2 years and I'll figure it out later. I don't know if I'm ready to make the bet on Judkins in the 4th round. But Cameron, your pick is going to be the one that people are staring over at YouTube like, freaking A, just get to Patrick Mahomes already, because how in the world can he be a bad pick in the 4th round? That was my thought process, was I don't know if I can ever call Patrick Mahomes a bad pick, knowing the upside that he has, which was super helpful for me that he made him a bad pick, because it stopped me and slowed me down to say, okay, but at what point do we draw the line with Mahomes? Because it's been what, 3 years in a row now we've gotten disappointing quarterback performance. I know there's longevity there, but let's not act like Patrick Mahomes has been a top 5 quarterback the last 3 years. He's been closer to quarterback 10 than quarterback 5.
Yeah. No, he hasn't even been in points per game. He was quarterback 13 last year in points per game and quarterback 12 the season before. So he hasn't even finished top 10 in points per game in either of the last 2 seasons.
Closer to quarterback 12 than quarterback 5.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And like you said, I understand the upside. I understand he's been, number 1 overall quarterback twice. I understand he has 2 more top 5 finishes. But if I'm looking at a guy who I'm going to invest heavily in, I want a guy that I'm pretty much guaranteed is top 7. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson,
Jane Daniels.
There we go. That's who I'm looking for. The rushing upside's there to ensure that they are finishing that high. Joe Burrow has probably, as a Vikings fan, it's hard to say, but probably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. And it's, so like Patrick Mahomes is going to lose Travis Kelce here in the next year or 2. I understand Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice have been fun to watch, but there's no guarantee that they turn into, his next version. Like I'm not calling them Tyreek and Travis Kelce, but his next version of those 2, right? There's definitely no guarantee. So and the way that they've changed how this offense works, it's kind of like they lost Tyreek. Mahomes and Reed said to themselves, hey, we need to prove that we're more than Tyreek Hill. Let's go win an MVP. And then these last 2 seasons, they're like, okay, this is kind of how we're going to let the offense flow. Hopefully the defense could take, help us out, and we can kind of play slow and methodical. And so that's just how they've been trending. And if he's finishing outside the top 8 quarterbacks, it's just like, I don't know. He feels to me, he's got similar upside to Kyler Murray, and a similar floor to Kyler Murray. And yet we're taking Kyler Murray 3 rounds later because of name value alone, right? That's where I fell in Patrick Mahomes. So it's just, I'm bought in a little bit to the next years. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But he has to keep that up over multiple years in Dynasty for me to want to take him this high in a single QB league.
It's so tough, man, because you don't want to play recency bias with Mahomes, knowing what he's capable of doing. Debatably the best quarterback in the NFL. You don't want to question that. But also, at some point, the numbers don't lie. When you're closer to quarterback 15 than quarterback 5, that eventually has to weigh and mean something when it comes to his ADP. So you might be fine with Patrick Mahomes in the 4th round. That's fine, but there is definitely a case to be made that Patrick Mahomes should actually be going round 5, maybe even round 6 instead. Speaking of round 5, we all have the same player in round 5. Another name we have been down on this entire offseason, Zay Flowers. And Cameron, I'm going to come back to you because I'm not gonna say you are the captain of the anti-Zay Flowers ship as a whole, but out of the 3 of us, you've definitely been navigating the ship, and Ty and I have been the deckhands for you. So go. I'll give you your minute and a half here on Zay Flowers.
I think Zay Flowers is a very good NFL wide receiver. I need to say
Let me be clear.
Let me be clear. If he's on a different offense, I think he's a very good pick. But the issue is he was the wide receiver 36 in points per game last year. Wide receiver 36. And Lamar put up MVP numbers with 4,100 yards and 41 passing touchdowns.
Which it's stupid.
And still, his wide receiver 1 is putting up 36 points per game. I love Lamar, but Lamar's passing stats are not going to get better than almost 4,200 yards and 41 passing touchdowns. So it's just, what is the continuous upside for Zay Flowers? What if this next season Lamar, comes back down to earth a little bit and has 26 passing touchdowns and 3,200 yards? What happens then? Right? I understand that we like Zay Flowers. I think he's a great NFL wide receiver. I think he fits what they want in Baltimore perfectly. But the way this Baltimore offense is run is not great for fantasy wide receiver success. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is when I look at the other wide receiver again, and this is really what happens in these rounds. I'm okay taking a shot on Chris Olave because he's outscored Zay Flowers in his first 2 seasons compared to Zay Flowers' first 2 seasons. Xavier Worthy attached to Patrick Mahomes. I'm okay taking that shot. Emeka Ibuka. I feel like they're pretty similar there, except Zay Flowers has already played for 3 seasons. So, Jordan Addison, I'm going to take Jordan Addison. Like, I understand why people like him, but from a fantasy perspective, it just doesn't make sense to me.
2 years of Zay Flowers in the NFL.
Yeah.
But the thing you pointed out, though, 41 touchdowns, Zay Flowers only caught 4 of them last year. I don't know if that ratio is going to correct itself. He caught 5 in his first year, for what it's worth. I don't know if that ratio is going to correct itself. Zay Flowers just is not a red zone target or machine in any capacity. Final thoughts? You want to pile on top, Ty, or should we have a little bit of mercy?
79th in ADOT last year.
Oh God, let's not even start it on his role that I still am kind of fuzzy on.
The design touches are nice, but that's about it. That can only take you so far. And when you don't get utilized downfield, like at all, it's hard to get behind.
Yeah, when you're nearly 80th in average depth of target, it's not a positive sign for fantasy success, to say the least. Let's head to round 6. Oh, the same player for all of us again. Look, this isn't bait. George Pickens traded to the Dallas Cowboys as of the morning of this recording. We're recording this 5:30 Central Time, Wednesday, May 7th. George Pickens is a Dallas Cowboy. Yet, he's still our least favorite pick in the 6th round. What is it for each of you? Give me the number one reason why George Pickens is your least favorite pick in the 6th round. Go ahead, Ty. You can start.
Because he's a Georgia Bulldog. No, I'm kidding.
Because it's Georgia out, done.
Immediately
leave.
Out. Better in college than in the NFL. Totally kidding. For me, it's maybe a slight bump in offensive utilization, but there's no guarantees that he's going to be in Dallas after this year. Like, it is already reported that he's just going to play on his rookie deal, which I think I expected. I did not think that George Pickens was the type of player that would instantly get a new contract
right
as soon as he was traded to a different team. But this team's not committed to him in any kind of way. And on top of the, he's going to play on the rookie deal, it's being reported that they will focus on Micah Parsons and Tyler Smith's contract first. So with that much money
left over for Pickens,
nothing. And that Pickens is going to be asking for a bag. You know it, because we've seen the bag go out to the Gabe Davises, the Christian Kirks. He can go get a pretty penny in free agency, and Dallas just won't pay that up. So you may get 1 year of it, and I just don't know if he lands in a situation that is then better than Dallas and then can really let him produce then for fantasy.
Ray Garvin, Ray GQ over on Twitter, put out to the heat maps of CeeDee Lamb's targets and George Pickens' targets. George Pickens, almost exclusively along the sideline. CeeDee Lamb basically highlights the entire field, but predominantly gets hot in the middle of the field. So this is going to work in Dallas. You got a perimeter threat in Pickens. You got CeeDee who can attack every blade of grass across the middle of the field. This is going to work. But you're right. It's exactly what it is for me. There's no guarantees that Pickens is even in Dallas. I'm not saying he's going to go back to Pittsburgh, but what if it's Cooper Kupp and God, that's a really bad example because Cooper Kupp's not the same caliber of player anymore. But what happens when he goes to a less intriguing situation where he's the wide receiver too? And it's not the Dallas Cowboys. Uncertainty doesn't have a contract for next year. Is that what it is for you too, Cameron?
A little bit. It's also the Steelers have one of the best track records of trading away wide receivers. They
this is
seem
also
to
true.
they seem to know when to get rid of a guy.
It's
May I
also
remind
true.
you of Antonio Brown, Martavius Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool. Right when Deontay Johnson,
Around pick Chase Claypool, legendary,
when
great
they get
move
rid
by
of
the Chicago Bears.
when they get rid of a guy, there's usually a reason behind it. Mike Tomlin doesn't get rid of people for no reason. Mike Tomlin has kind of a method to everything that's going on. That's why he's been in the NFL this long. So that also kind of weighs on it. But yeah, there's no guarantee what's next. If he's connected to Dak for 5 years, great. You know what? Then I'm probably a little bit more in. But not then. Yeah, I'm a little worried.
Well, we'll put a pin on George Pickens there because I disagree with nothing either of you two fellows have said. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with round 7 through 12 after we hear from our friends over at Underdog. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. Alrighty, we are back. We've gone through the first 6 rounds of Dynasty Startup Drafts, giving you our least favorite picks. Let's hit round 7 through 12, fellas. What's new, Cameron? You and I agree on a player. That's a common trend. In this episode will continue to be a common trend. Spoiler alert. Mark Andrews, our least favorite pick in the 7th round. For me, Andrews is 28 years old. He was saved by a bunch of touchdowns last year. He was borderline droppable in redraft leagues. Dynasty probably wanted to hold on to him. He's kind of a scary one to draft in the 7th round if I'm going to draft a tight end there. I get why people would want to do it. I have no interest in doing it, though, and neither do you, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, he had 10 touchdowns in his last 11 games. I just don't know if I'm going to bank on Lamar Jackson having 41 passing touchdowns and him getting a quarter of those again. But yeah, I mean, the yardage was not great. He didn't have a single game over 70 receiving yards last year. He had most of his games under 75% snap percentage. There was questions this offseason of, is he even going to be on the roster come 2025? So it's been a tremendous fall from grace for Mark Andrews from being one of like the tight end darlings. Always trust him, top of the draft. And it's just, you just don't know what the downside is anymore. And there's just so many tight ends who can average 10 fantasy points per game that it's like, why am I going to invest heavily in a guy that this team looked like they didn't want to use, and then we just got bailed up by touchdowns. So I can get bailed up by touchdowns on half of these tight ends. So I'll just wait till the 14th round at that point.
You just got to pick the right one, and odds are that you're probably going to find him on waivers.
Yep.
Your dynasty league, if it's an older guy that doesn't get drafted, which I think that perspective makes it an interesting case, Ty, why you have Dalton Kincaid as your least favorite pick here, because he is younger, 25 compared to Mark Andrews, 29, 4 years younger. A guy who I still think is capable of averaging, 10 fantasy points per game, but I find it interesting that he's your least favorite pick compared to an older Mark Andrews.
Do you guys know how many points per game he averaged outside of his 2 games that he scored in last year?
Probably something stupid like 6.8
on the dot.
Oh,
on the dot. The tight end 28 points per game.
The smartest man on earth.
That was a wild guess. I don't know. Are you like hacking my computer or something?
Literally, I can share screen right now if you want me to show you. I got no Dalton Kincaid tabs open whatsoever.
That's impressive. I don't want to just come out here and say, like, I think we can all say that the Dalton Kincaid experiment in Buffalo is over, right? That's not the route that I want to take, because this was just one down year after what was a pretty encouraging rookie year for him. But I'm afraid with this Buffalo offense, we're kind of approaching the Baltimore offense territory or even like Green Bay territory, where there's not exactly a go-to guy in this passing attack, and everything is kind of predicated on the run. Everything goes through the run. Everything is built off of the run. So for Dalton Kincaid, he might be the most athletically gifted, whatever kind of ism you want to give him. When you look at the weapons like Khalil Shakir and Josh Palmer and Keon Coleman, but there's nothing in this offense that says like, yeah, Dalton Kincaid is going to get the ball. He's going to be Josh Allen's number one. And it's kind of the same argument for Mark Andrews. Besides like the touchdown regression, they just spread the ball out. And I'm not sure that's exactly what I want to invest in my 7th round pick when there are guys like a Jerry Jeudy, like a Luther Burden, Trey Harris, Jaden Reed, guys that are about the same age as Dalton Kincaid, if not a little younger, but do have a legit chance of not getting lost in the mix at all. So these are the two guys, Dalton Kincaid, Mark Andrews. I hope you get a tight end either really early, not as early as Brock Bowers. But if you're still looking for a tight end at this point in your startup draft, yeah.
Four tight ends we've now talked about. We're like, what? So I should not go into this with a tight end? Zero tight end.
Just target Colson Loveland. And that's all you need to do.
I don't hate targeting either him or Tyler.
Don't hate it. But I just think there are better ways to use your 7th round pick than on guys with a lot of question marks, a lot of regression potential, like Mark Andrews, question marks, and usage like Dalton Kincaid.
So I have a question mark about your 8th round pick, your least favorite pick in the 8th round. But I'll start with Cameron and I's first, because this feels pretty self-explanatory, Cameron. Jalen McMillan is going as an 8th round pick in Dynasty startups, and he's the wide receiver 4 in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. The math don't math to me on that one at all. Now I get Mike Evans is older, Chris Godwin coming off an injury. Will Jalen McMillan be needed a bit more this year? Sure, maybe. Could Mike Evans hit the age cliff soon? Sure, maybe. I'm making a pretty big bet that Jalen McMillan's going to be the guy to step up, though. In the 8th round of a Dynasty startup. That, I hate to say it, broken record, way too rich for my blood for Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, I understand he was a rookie last year, but he was wide receiver 48 in points per game when Baker Mayfield had a career year and Chris Godwin got hurt. So it's kind of like, so unless Baker repeats, Godwin's not playing, and Mecca can't figure it out, I am with you. I just don't see the path. Maybe people are still betting long term that Evans and Godwin got 2 years. McMillan can be the wide receiver 1 or 2. Like, I understand, but I don't know if that's really a bet I want to make.
It's not one that I want to make. That's for sure. I look, Jalen McMillan looked the part last year. He really did. I'm kind of bummed they went out and drafted Emeka Egbuka as much as I love Emeka, but oh boy, it seems like we're going to be waiting 2-3 years on Jalen McMillan, and that's just not something I want to take in the 8th round for a guy who still 2-3 years down the road might still be the wide receiver 4 on this team, depending on how Mike Evans shakes out, depending on how healthy Chris Godwin becomes. We know Emeka will be around and will be the ascending player on that team. I'm not willing to make that bet on Jalen McMillan in the 8th round. So the question mark I have on your pick, Ty, David Montgomery is an interesting choice here. I'm not going to say it's the wrong choice, because I think there's a case you could say David Montgomery actually isn't a good startup pick. But why is he your selection at the 801?
I'll be honest.
Because you goofed.
I done goofed. It shouldn't be David Montgomery. It should be Kyle Pitts.
Oh,
it really should be Kyle Pitts.
Is Kyle? No way. Did I blow that one?
He's 1 pick behind Jalen McMillan. So if it wasn't Jalen McMillan, it should have been Kyle Pitts. I completely missed Kyle Pitts.
So your pick's Kyle Pitts instead of David Montgomery. All right. Well, yeah. Look, if there's a way we can get the graphic changed before this goes up, we will. But
here's what I'll do. I'll do a 2-for-1 special. Okay, I'll do a 2-for-1 special.
You better keep it short. We got 4 more rounds to get through.
David Montgomery, I think there is nothing wrong with a floor play when in your dynasty startup, but it's in a very particular build and a very particular draft. What's the word? draft plan, I'll call it. My worry with Montgomery is that just we continue to see more and more Jahmyr Gibbs, and that David Montgomery is just going to be so touchdown dependent. And that's not to say that like Detroit won't score touchdowns, but man, Jahmyr Gibbs, when he has had the opportunity to just run the rock and be the guy in that backfield, this Detroit offense seems to take another step when you think it can't take another step. So I know that Montgomery just signed an extension too. The team could let him go in his last year, and it's just $2 million on dead cap. So we'll see about that. For Kyle Pitts, this is where I can say the Kyle Pitts experiment is toast, is it not? It is
wrong.
done with.
No, it's
they
not.
came out and said it's not dead.
Yes, it's
Coaching
not
staff said
dead.
it's not dead.
He just has to work on fundamentals, route running, and pass catching and blocking. That's the best part about that quote. Zach Robinson said that first and then said he still has potential. And they just took the last part of it.
He has to work. Look, he has to work on all areas of his game. But you bet me this dude will be a star on this team. He just has to fix everything.
You know the cherry on top about that though too? Has a coach not said that every offseason about Kyle Pitts though? Like it it has happened every single offseason since his rookie year of, where's Kyle Pitts going to be? Well, how's he going to do this year? And everyone's, he's got potential, man. He's got potential. The Kyle Pitts experiment is over. Avoid it at all costs. I know that tight ends get very, very thin after that point in the 8th round, but like, hey, David Njoku still goes right after him. Tucker Kraft, at least youth is on his side in a better offense. Jake Ferguson, love that one. Or just punt it and then go like Evan Ingram, Mason Taylor, or Travis Kelce even. Like just take it year by year at that point.
We'll move on to the 9th round here. We're all in alignment here.
Rip.
Brian Robinson Jr. I was thinking about this though. Brian Robinson could be in his David Montgomery era.
Yeah.
Look, nobody liked him in Chicago. Inefficient. Yeah, he put up a couple top 20 seasons, sure, whatever, but like not that great of a running back. But could the right team fall in love with him? The Chicago Bears, who are looking for a little bit of thunder to the DeAndre Swift Lightning. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, could Brian Robinson be in his David Montgomery era? He's my least favorite pick, so I don't believe that's where we're heading. But when I saw your David Montgomery pick, it got me thinking. I'm like, oh, guys, at the end of his rookie deal, could he find the right offense? Could he pass catch enough for a team? Could he score enough touchdowns for a team? Yeah, but I think it's got to be. If it isn't going to be in Washington, I don't know entirely where it's going to be. I don't know where you two land on that, but I had to have that thought experiment. It took me down an interesting path. Tried to keep my mind open. Tried to galaxy brain it a little bit, but I ultimately don't think Brian Robinson is exciting enough of a player that will offer a team much more than some inefficient early down work.
You remember how exciting Washington's offense was last year?
Right. And that's what I came back to.
Yeah, Brian Robinson had 4.3 yards per carry and was running back 30 in points per game. He is about to enter his Miles Sanders in Carolina era. That's
all right.
I think he gets it. You're like, oh my gosh, he got $7 million a year, and then you're like, oh wait, no, he got beat up by Chuba Hubbard. So sorry. But yeah, that's the trajectory. I think
you just chose Miles Sanders on the Panthers just to say Chuba Hubbard.
No, he was just the first name I recognized that was below running back 30. I mean, we're starting getting some names that I've never even heard of.
Oh, Ty, what is it for you?
I just think he is just average, and
right,
like
that's fair.
I don't think there's anything special. I think he's actually, since we're on the name calling here, he's Alexander Madison 2.0.
That's a little bit of a deeper cut than Miles Sanders. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, totally. I mean, we've gone kind of on a steady decline from David Montgomery to Miles Sanders to Alexander Madison. But like Brian Robinson could get one more contract, but I think he's going to get found out that he is just meh.
I love how I threw out a mere thought idea, and now it's just turned into Miles Sanders, boom, boom, got him. Alexander Madison, boom, got him. Like, hey, I just
Toby
threw out a
Gerhart.
theory. I never said I agreed with it. I just had the thought process of could this happen? But we'll keep it moving around 10. We got a few more rounds to cover here. Cam, you and I, Ramondre Stevenson in the 10th round. This is a guy that the Patriots can cut for little to nothing after this year, and they just drafted Travion Henderson in the 2nd round. I'm going to keep that one short and simple for us because Cameron called DeAndre Swift his favorite, I should say his favorite, the best pick in the 10th round earlier this week, and now he's the worst pick for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what is this about?
Standing on business on this one.
I'll step in and be the parent that has to separate my 2 children from fighting. But go ahead.
I am adult and man enough to admit that yes, DeAndre Swift has some pretty high upside for, if not the highest upside of any player that goes in the 10th round of a startup draft. But I also will acknowledge the other side of the coin that DeAndre Swift has some pretty serious downside as well because of his history with Ben Johnson. Sure, you may get a year, but what's to say that this team tries to move on from DeAndre Swift, and then not only has he moved on from Philadelphia, Philadelphia didn't re-sign him after his 1 year there. Then he's leaving Chicago in one of what we're presuming to be one of the better offenses. So again, I see the path for upside with DeAndre Swift. I also just see a path for downside, and that downside might cost him ever getting a chance as a lead back ever again.
It is a pick that you worry about a year from now is just completely sunk, and it's what Miles Sanders is now. Not to keep using Miles Sanders as the example, but you do worry about that. Where he's on the Dallas Cowboys, maybe that's an okay spot, and then it's like, okay, maybe he actually doesn't get any work whatsoever. The Panthers, it's not a bad landing spot. He got a lot of money, but I actually know he's going to end up being the running back 3 on that team. So yeah, I do worry we're entering that stretch with DeAndre Swift. I think that's where we're at with Ramondre Stevenson too. Maybe Ramondre could be a Thunder running back 2 somewhere, but I do wonder if the Patriots are going to cut ties with him, and there's just uncertainty there with that as well. So 2 running backs we don't like in the 10th round, round 11. Look, I know people are going to be shocked that I have J.K. Dobbins on the screen. Maybe not shocked, but they're going to question why I have J.K. Dobbins on the screen. There it is. Thanks for voicing the people's gasp, Cameron. I was waiting for a dramatic effect on that. Here's my thing. I don't want to take a guy in a startup draft that isn't even rostered on an NFL team.
What?
I don't know how that's not the worst pick right now. Dude's not even rostered. We're just going to assume he gets rostered.
Yeah,
he will. I'd be willing to bet he will, but the fact it's taken him this long to find a home. How many homes are left after the NFL draft? Chicago, not the worst spot in the world. He ain't getting more than a 1-year deal. So I don't want to take a dude that's not on an NFL team right now. I mean, that's what it came down to for me. In my right mind, look, I don't disagree that Cade Otton in the 11th round really isn't the best value pick in the world, but I'm not going to take a dude who's not on an NFL team. Give me fantasy points this year that I know are going to be existent, rather than J.K. Dobbins, who's currently slated to have 0 points this year.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
I get that, but because he's not on a team and because he could sign with somebody, that's the upside that I'm perceiving with J.K. Dobbins. Cade Otton's going into year 4 and is maybe going to be the 4th target. Yeah. Probably going to be the 5th or 6th target.
The correct choice outside of J.K. Dobbins for me.
I guess actually you look at it, probably the 5th or 6th target when you add in Bucky, and then maybe 7th or he could be on the waiver wire in 3 weeks. You could be like, oh my gosh, this dude has 4 receptions in the first 6 weeks of this. That is not out of the realm of possibilities with Cade Otton. And so that's why there is no path to upside for him. He would need so many injuries to happen for him to finally see upside again.
Yeah, it's the correct pick. If I weren't to choose J.K. Dobbins, I would be in alignment with you here.
Here's one last note on Cade Otton. Last year, he came through when Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were out with injury. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin get hurt again, it's not like they're going to have nobody in that receiver room, because they have Jalen McMillan and now Emeka Egbuka, and then you add in the running backs. something tells me that Tampa Bay is going to be like the Indianapolis Colts of next year's draft, where they're like, whoever the top tight end is, it's going to go to Tampa Bay because you can easily upgrade from Kadon.
Round 12, brief thought on these dudes. I'm looking at more tight ends you shouldn't draft. Apparently it's the episode of tight. Don't draft a tight end in your dynasty.
Don't draft a tight end.
Just don't draft a tight end. That's the lesson today. Just don't
Take
draft
Ferguson in the 14th.
Yeah. Just wait till the waivers run. Cole Kmet.
Yeah,
he's playing behind Colson
probably...
Loveland. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I think he's going to be more of a blocking guy than he is going to be a receiving guy, because Colson Loveland is a receiving tight end. That's what he does phenomenally well. Cole Kmet's going to be the blocking tight end. I don't think it creates fantasy production. Cam, give me your 30-second Pat Freiermuth bit.
He managed to hit 10 fantasy points per game last season with 7 touchdowns. He's not going to score 7 touchdowns this year. Cole Kmet probably was actually the right answer. I don't know. I just don't ever want Pat Freiermuth on my team. So that's kind of what it comes down to.
You just like
Arthur Smith, and he's just like, bleh. So I just feel like, hey, I'll go the
Pat
other way.
Freiermuth is like your deep disdain that like you keep hidden from everybody. And then when we talk about Pat Freiermuth, you're just like, I want nothing to do with him. It's just like ruthless.
Yeah. No, I agree. That is just how I feel.
Hi to attack by law.
There's only one quarterback that you should be targeting in the 12th round or later of your startup drafts, and it's Justin Fields. And if you're needing a quarterback, wait until waivers, because you'll likely get a Jalen Milroe, a Jackson Dart, somebody like that. That is a rookie. And yeah, like I don't know what you're going to be waiting on with Tua. And we all know the downside. I don't think we need to talk about it. We all know the downside that this dude may not play football if another specific injury happens.
Well, there you have it. Our least favorite picks in the first 12 rounds of Dynasty startups. We could go really deep, but look, we want to make sure you all get on with your day too. We don't bore you to death. Again, if you're in love with fantasy football content, you're a fantasy football fanatic just like we are, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest episodes are up. Look, 87% of you watch our content and aren't subscribed. So we can change that. All right. I promise you, you'll love our channel. We're bringing you content all year round. Redraft, best ball, Dynasty content. We're coming next week. Year 2 breakout players, both at the running back position and the wide receiver position. So we'll have a little bit of fun dissecting what went right for these year 2 wide receivers this year, last year, how they can progress forward this year. Same with the running back position as well. That's going to be a fun stretch of episodes next week. So make sure you're around, tune in for those. You can follow us on our other socials as well. FFLs on Twitter, the FFLs on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on X, Cam Law, FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Platt. Ty. We'll see y'all next week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.
Deuces.